Sorry, guys, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so if I'm a little bit slow, my apologies. All right. So I was looking at this, right, and I'm looking at sort of all the stuff you have going on here, and then we sort of reach this gradual dead zone out to the fingertips, right? So we have to, you have to kind of think about what's going to happen here that's going to be eye-catching, right? It's good to have these areas of rest like this. You know, you're not just doing a just gluttonous detail all over the whole thing, but you do want something that's gonna be eye-catching down at the feet. So how do we reconcile this and make it look like it's functioning? Um, well, think about yeah, you could do spike strap to the feet. Yeah. Good reference. I'll get back to the arms. Good reference for this guy and kind of going into accessories. And you've already started. If we look at, is it? Sort of the Reavers from Firefly. I feel like you're going to find something here. Especially if you look at the ships, there's going to be stuff that they add on. Let's see if I could find something good here. Can't find any really good shots right now. But I think there's something here. Like I would just do a Google search and look for close-up shots of the Reavers themselves, and I think you're going to find some good stuff. No, Firefly is actually a television show. There was a movie made called Serenity, and it only ran for one season. It's Joss Whedon. I don't know if you Joss Whedon is, but he did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I think it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly, and he's done a lot of other cool stuff since. But Firefly is a phenomenal show. You should check it out. But if you watch Serenity. The Oliphants are good too. That's another good one. Another one, in kind of the same vein as this, I don't know if you guys have watched The 100. Let's see, what are the names? I think they're also called Reapers. There we go. And the Grounders. So like the Grounders outfits from the 100, I think would be good reference for the same in the same style. Like if you look at these outfits, I think you can pull inspiration from this. And if you guys haven't watched The 100, it's a pretty damn cool show. Surprisingly, it's not just like like some sort of teen sci-fi show. It's actually a pretty decent show. But the Reapers are like these cannibals. Same thing with the Reavers. The Reavers and the Reapers are both cannibalistic peoples. The Grounders are just a faction, and they have some really cool outfits that you could probably pull from. I'm thinking more like fabrics and armor, and just sort of how is that constructed, and how is that like if you look at this, right? Like he has these bones that are wrapped around here to make this neck, this gorget. It's stuff that you could pull inspiration from, right? And it's more for the accessories than for the skin detail. For the skin detail, I would straight up just go to what we were looking at before. If you look at, these little hairs are cool, but they might kill your poly count. But I would just look at the detail of an actual spider leg and mimic that, right? I mean, it's mostly smooth. I mean, I don't know if you're going to go spider or more crab. Like if we go, I don't want a cooked snow crab. That's pretty bizarre. Let's see. I don't know if you've ever seen coconut crabs before, but they kind of have a cool, sort of cool detail in the surface of their shell. This also might give you coloring ideas. You were thinking more fleshy, like a face hugger or finger, but with spider elements. Okay, okay. Yeah, when I first saw these things, I was like, oh man, these things are so awesome. They look alien. They look bizarre. Wait, what? Coconut crab eating cat. That's bizarre. All right. So if you're going to go more face hugger, then you're looking at, you're going to have to, I mean, I would just look at face huggers. You know what I mean? Follow that. I mean, if you look at the skin detail on a face hugger, let's go close up. Well, no, this looks like, let's get something from the actual film. What were you saying holy hell about? Yeah, I mean, this is your guide, right? If this is what you're after, I mean, there's nothing better than looking at this as reference. And what they have is it's less of, I mean, this looks less like a spider than it does like sort of human, like just human bone, right, with skin laid out over it, and there's just a couple areas that have like tendon. These face hugger fingers there's nothing there, right? There's no real muscle tissue in there. Oh yeah, it's like I didn't know coconut crabs ate cats. So let's bounce back over to ZBrush and let's look at how you're going to implement this. So one, you've already determined your segments. Okay, if you want to go for that face hugger, I think that this is good. The padding on the bottom of the hand is good. I think between here and here, you should look at this as, these would be your carpals, right, coming in through here. And if you have a shell-like element like that, let's take a look at this here again. Let's see what we can glean from this. I would start segmenting this and just kind of scribing in the bones to start with to determine a structure. Imagine there'd be some small bones here, like wrist bones. So let's get that in there. And let's start giving this sort of scribe stuff some dimension. I mean, this is moving away from what kind of what you originally had was like a plate. It was more like a crab claw on the top. Okay, thanks, Marcos. OBJ will work. So at this point, you're really looking at just the shape of, carpals and metacarpals and kind of mimicking those little twists and turns and ridges that sit in those bones. Look at the way the joints interlock. Kind of build that up here. And then once you get those bones set, yes, you do have to get the neutral pose in. But that's, once you've, I don't know, I have to see your lowest subdivision, but once you have that, once you have the lowest subdivision, it's going to be pretty easy to get your neutral state. It'll just be easy to pose. But I'd say from here, this is like stage one, right? Stage one will be establishing just the structure, right? And I think that if you're going for, you want something face hugger like, I think you're going to have to start moving away from sort of the plating idea. Because if you look at this again, there's no real plating going on here. This is all just bones with flesh over it. And I think maybe in areas you could take the concept of the plating and you could do plating with accessories, right? So you can, instead of actually making it it's plating that grows out of them, it's something that's been added onto them. The second step to this, what I would do is I would come in and then start thinking about how the skin, what little flesh there is, how is it stretching across these gaps, right? And at the same time you're doing this, I'd also start thinking about tendons, right? So where are the strings for the puppet? Clay brush here to gap fill. You might need to do this on a separate subtool, or just do like a. And it might be difficult to manage like these tendons, especially across these valleys, and get it to look just right. Because what you want is sort of what you have on the egg sac, right? Those thin connecting pieces. You want the same thing in the sculpt here. And I think it's going to take a little bit of labor to get that. I mean, you can just do it on here, and you have to use a lot of the gap filling brushes, like the clay brush. But something more like that is I think is going to work for those hands. Awesome, man. So does this sort of solve that issue for you in the hands? No, I don't feel it looks that way. It looks that way at all right now, Simon. I mean, it depends on how you implement those straps. Yeah, that's why I was pointing you sort of in. See if we can get a good shot, because they do this really well in the costuming. I think if you go more in this direction, I think it's going to feel less like it, right? It's sort of this industrial plating with the straps coming across it. And I think the reason why I bring this up is because there's hundreds of people and variations of this that you could take a look at. Like there's hundreds of costumes like this for this show. So I mean, there's a lot of inspiration you can pull from that. Her outfit's really cool. We already looked at that. We looked at hers. Let's see. Maybe him not so much. This is kind of some cool stuff. You look at the razor wire wrapped around, mixed in with the leather strips. Some motorcycle gloves. Yeah, there you go. All right, so hopefully that'll lead you around there. One last thing I wanted to say as well. Let's take a look at the squares really fast, and then we'll wrap it up, because I have one more good piece of advice for you. Let's bring everything else back. Yeah, you see intuitively you already had something going on here that was in this vein, right? But let's go to one of your scars. So I'd say my tip is don't make these all look fresh, right? Like this looks like it might be a fresh wound. And brush-wise, you can use the standard. Let's bring the focal shift down, take lazy mouse off, so we get this sort of like bubbly-like flow out of that brush, right? And I would come in and start to think about how this is scarifying, right? What are the scars coming out from this looking like? And I would go for more of these scar-like wounds that maybe never healed completely and are festering. And I think that's going to give you a much better feel for your wounds. At least it'll give you some variation too, right? Now it feels less like just a slash in the surface, but it feels like something that's actually affecting that whole area. And you can take that out to, a greater degree or lesser degree on how far. Right, without much detail work, managed to give that a little bit better form, right, and call a little bit better attention to it. This actually, the spike balls, I was going to say something about that because, and that was part of my last bit of advice, that was part of it at least. I think the strapping you have going on here is looking good. I think you need to, just look at more reference. And look at different types of wounds, because you might have something like this where it's sort of like it's a half open infested wound, and then you might have like something more that's like a keloid. Which is something more that would be like more along the lines of that. But I would do maybe some various stages, and I wouldn't do these all over. Like do maybe like 3 or 4 in key spots, and sort of make each one sort of a rock star on its own. Give each one its own identity. I know it's gross, but look up reference and go. Look what an infested wound on an animal looks like. Look at what a fresh wound looks like. Look that stuff up. I mean, I know nobody really wants to go out and look at that, but if you're trying to recreate it, just like with anything else, you want to have reference for it. All right. So the spiked balls, I like the concept in game for this, right? So the possibilities of what this thing can do. That there's these sharp elements that are hanging down that can act as a weapon. I think they're cool. That's yeah, there you go, right? Sometimes you have to look at gross stuff to get the right look. Let's go to that's just my quick blurb on that specifically. For your accessories, I would do this. So let's go and fill the body with, let's go with the sort of inoffensive color. And then let's go to your accessories. So this helps you see sort of, without having everything textured, this helps you see your coverage of your accessories and sort of your balance, right? Because you don't want everything playing at the same value. And even go into, let's go into a flat color. Here we go. All right, you go into flat color and you see the coverage of your accessories over the coverage of your creature. And you can also see the relationship and scale, right? So this is, right now I'm looking at all your straps, and your strapping sort of all has the same value. This is nice. I like what I'm, like this is, now that I have this separated, I can really see how this is affecting the silhouette. And I can see how it's affecting the interior too. Like what am I going to be looking at when I'm looking at it from here, from the side? Like how does each angle read? You know, and I could see it in a very simple way. And this can really help you determine how to lay out all your accessories. So that was just a little snippet. It wasn't like, you know, an hour-long diatribe, but I think that this is something that could be useful to you. You know, if you're going like, well, do I need more here? Do I need this? Do I need more coverage here? Less thin strappiness and maybe more plating? But anyways, I'd say you just have a lot of production work ahead of you, and you have a pretty good handle on what you're doing. And you don't need a lot of leading or a lot of hand holding. And that's why I kind of asked you, like, well, where do you think you need your help in? So what do you think? Is that good for you going forward? Do you have any other questions before I switch over? You're thinking a lot of ideas. You think it'll take you so long to model. Yeah, you know, I mean, nothing good comes easy. and don't let that deter you. You know, I mean, you're making a really nice portfolio piece, and you want to give it attention. Don't be like, oh, this is just going to be too hard. Don't let that psychological fear set in. Well, you know, even if you go beyond the course, I'm always here to help you out, and I have no problems with that. All right.